Hey, Pam Bondi. Rough week last week, huh? Let's recap. A Trump-appointed judge slammed your lawsuit against all 15 Maryland federal judges as a constitutional free-for-all. Another judge tossed one of your gun cases for trampling on constitutional rights and warned of lawlessness. And for the third time in little over a week, D.C. grand jurors rejected felony charges in 3 separate cases. That's gotta be a national record. That's like a soccer player scoring a hat trick of goals into his own net. Let's be real. The judges and the grand juries, they're just not that into you. They're not hiding it like it was an Epstein client list. Judges are writing long, scathing opinions like they're Taylor Swift scorned in All Too Well, the 10-minute version. Grand jurors think your cases are worse than the Micah Parsons trade. But don't worry, I've got a great idea to help you up your game. Think of me as your legal hitch. Your move? Bring a case that the grand jury can't resist, that a judge won't toss, that the public won't question. Serious charges against a dangerous defendant. Here's the case. Charge Ghislaine Maxwell with making false statements to a federal officer, and not just any officer, your own Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche. He warned her in their interview, lying to him is a crime. Immunity doesn't cover lies. I've read the transcript of Blanche's Maxwell interview, and I've reviewed many of the case filings. It seems to me that Maxwell lied. A lot. Let's break it down. The biggest whopper? Maxwell denied being present and participating in sex acts reported by Epstein's victims. But Maxwell was instrumental in Epstein's sexual abuse of 6 girls. Maxwell personally sexually abused 3 of them. How do we know that? It was established at Maxwell's trial. You know, the one where she was convicted of sex trafficking? Another lie? Maxwell denied ever seeing an underage girl go into a massage room with Epstein. Really? The Maxwell trial evidence showed that Maxwell was the person most frequently in the room when Epstein abused Jane, whose abuse began when she was just 14. And how does Maxwell explain the dozens of entries in her black book under the heading Massage, Florida, referencing girls' parents? Maxwell also lied about her relationship with Epstein. She said, "I was never with him regularly. That is one of those misnomers." But in her own essay, she called them a couple who were rarely apart. Maxwell complains that everyone puts us together like a monolith. He literally had a separate life from me. I had a separate life from him. He was not a sharer, well, at least not with me. Really? Because in the same essay, Maxwell said they were great partners and the best of friends. The evidence at trial established their intimate relationship, and even after they broke up, they remained close. To charge a false statement, it has to be material, meaning it has to matter. Maxwell's lies about her relationship with Epstein and how often they were together matter. Why? Because if she was always around him, she can't play dumb. Maxwell wants us to believe she had no clue anything shady was happening in Epstein's world. Come on! She was on the plane with young girls. She was on the island with young girls. She was in his homes with young girls. She recruited the girls to give him massages, sometimes multiple massages a day. Sometimes they were topless. But no, she had no idea. That's like believing guys go to Hooters just for the wings. Maxwell didn't just lie about Epstein. It looks like she lied about her prison conditions too. She claimed, "I was on suicide watch for almost 2 years. They woke me up every 15 minutes for the entire time." According to the prison's attorney, staff in her unit did routine checks, flashing a light at the ceiling every 30 minutes just to make sure inmates were breathing and okay. That's not getting woken up every 15 minutes. That's just the staff following their procedure. Maxwell's lie about how badly she was treated in prison matters because it's all part of her push for leniency, to get a commutation or a pardon or a country club prison stay. Maxwell also appears to have lied about not getting all the discovery in her case. She said, "I didn't receive all discovery, period." But prosecutors said that Maxwell's legal team had full copies of her discovery. Believe me, if they didn't, they would have raised hell. Maxwell had top-tier defense attorneys, and they were constantly in touch with the court and prosecutors about discovery. The court gave Maxwell plenty of time to review it all, in person, over video, even on a laptop, in jail. Now, Blanche said in this interview that he was not trying to create a she-said situation. But that makes no sense. It is a she-said situation. The victims said Maxwell sexually abused them and helped Epstein to do it. Maxwell said she didn't. You can't believe both the victims and Maxwell. Someone is lying. And it's not the victims. In a recent DOJ filing, you said that Epstein is the most infamous pedophile in U.S. history, and you called the facts of Epstein's case a tale of national disgrace. So if you believe the victims about Epstein's sex trafficking, then why wouldn't you believe them about Maxwell's sex trafficking, especially when a jury did? Now, you may be thinking Maxwell's already serving a 20-year jail sentence isn't bringing criminal charges for lying overkill. No, it's not. Lying to a federal officer is a separate crime from Maxwell's sex trafficking crimes. It's a very serious thing when a convicted felon commits more crimes, especially when that crime is lying to a law enforcement officer. You can't let the criminal think he's going to pull a fast one and get away with it. I certainly didn't when I was a prosecutor. Remember Billy McFarland, the founder of the infamous Fyre Festival? He promised a luxurious music festival in the Bahamas, and what he ended up delivering was no music, FEMA tents, and cheese sandwiches. I prosecuted McFarland for committing a $26 million fraud, and he pled guilty. And then we caught him committing an entirely new fraud scheme, selling sham tickets to exclusive VIP events. So he and his lawyer came in for a voluntary in-person meeting to talk about it. I warned him not to lie. And then he lied. So we charged him not only with the new fraud scheme, but with making false statements to law enforcement agents. And he pled guilty to those charges. That sent the message that the truth matters and convicted felons will be held accountable for their lies. Based on my experience and my review of the public record, I think you've got a strong case to charge Maxwell with lying in her interview. But don't take my word for it. Talk to the prosecutors and the FBI agents who actually took her to trial and won. Sure, you fired Maureen Comey, the lead Maxwell prosecutor and top sex trafficking prosecutor in the country, so I guess talking to her is off the table. But others at SDNY and the FBI still know about this case. Why not ask them if she lied and should be charged? Maybe the same reason they weren't in the interview. You're not treating this like any other criminal case, where prosecutors would have called out Maxwell's lies, confronted her with contradictory evidence, and pressed her for proof. Instead, Blanche told Maxwell, "I'm not asking you to corroborate anything." Words no serious prosecutor would ever say, because without corroboration, you don't know who's telling the truth. You know what else a serious prosecutor wouldn't say? "Everything was great today. It was very helpful." To someone who just lied? Really? That's exactly what Blanche said to Maxwell. She didn't accept responsibility. She didn't show remorse. She didn't offer new leads for investigation. She just denied everything, denied knowing about anyone doing anything inappropriate in Epstein's world, including Donald Trump. So when Blanche called this interview helpful to who? Not to the victims, not to the public. It was helpful to one person, Donald Trump. Make no mistake, Blanche wasn't acting as a prosecutor in that interview. He was acting as Trump's defense attorney. His objective appears to have been seeking to use Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker, as a character witness to say that Maxwell wasn't aware of Trump doing anything wrong. Well, she also said she wasn't aware of anyone doing anything wrong. So if you think that that's enough to clear Trump, then that clears Epstein and his buddies too, which is insane. Remember, Maxwell is a convicted sex trafficker and a liar. You shouldn't believe anything she says. And it's bad enough to let a convicted felon lie to the Deputy Attorney General without criminal charges, but rewarding her with a cushy country club prison where sex offenders aren't even allowed, not ruling out a commutation or a pardon, refusing to release the Epstein files even though the judge in the Epstein case said you can release them anytime? That's not justice. That is a betrayal of Maxwell's victims. That sends a message to all sex trafficking victims that even if they stand up to their traffickers, the government will not stand up for them. That sends a message to all Americans that this Department of Justice is soft on crime for those who are rich, powerful, and protect the president. That will cost you more than judges or grand juries. That will cost us the fundamental fairness of our entire justice system. And when that happens, we all lose. Tomorrow, 10 victims will deliver their own message. They will stand on the steps of the Capitol. They will share their stories, and they will seek the release of the Epstein files. They will demand justice. Do the right thing. Give it to them.